of two matrices. Okay, so let's get to the next part of matrix, which is inverse matrix. So how do you identify there is a matrix? So the normal matrix times the inverse of matrix, you will get your answer 1 0 0 1. If you don't get the answer, then it's not an inverse matrix. So what is the formula of inverse matrix? It is, okay, if you have two rows, two columns here, this will be your A, B, C, D. So the inverse matrix formula you have to remember is anak datuk tolak budak comel. So A, D minus B, C. C anak datuk tolak budak comel. So it's 1 over A, D minus B, C. So bila minus B, C, dia macam ada bracket here. So bila you expand, C tu pun kan negative kan. So it's here. And even though we know sepatutnya the position is A, B, C, D. So now you have to like change it a bit. So whatever, contoh lah, if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, you're gonna put your 1 inside here. 1, then your 2 is here, but negative 2. Still here, but negative 3. And 4 will be here. If this kind of seems confusing, then don't worry. Let's see later on as we go. Do some questions. If inverse matrix does not exist, nanti AD minus BC ni akan equals to 0. So for example here, if matrix B equals to this number over here, then the inverse of matrix B, which is B inverse 1, you have to put like a negative power of negative 1 over there. It's your A, this is your B, this is your C, this is your D. So what's your A? Negative 2, negative 2, A. What is your D? It's 4. Here's 4. Tolak, which is the negative, then is the budak comel. So B and then C. See your B and then C, you substitute it in here. A, B, C, D. So here is the A. So you put negative 2. Then C. But remember it's negative C. So it's negative 2. Ta-da! Like a terbalik N. So just do it as normal, as you normally would. Now you'll get 1 over 14 times these things. So what you can actually do to further expand this, but this is optional, is gonna like times each and every single one. So it'll be, your new answer will be, and then negative 1. Okay, let's look at this question over here. The inverse matrix of these things, make sure you label them so that it makes your life easier. A, B, C, D is M here. Find the value of M and X. So first, let's find the inverse matrix of this. So after you find the inverse matrix of this, now we know, as you can see here when we do a comparison, we know that M equals to 1 over 7 and X equals to negative 5. As mentioned, you guys can head on to CK12 or Han Academy for more questions that you guys can do involving matrix. I think that helped me a lot. Let's see here. See A, B, C, D. 1 over A, D minus B, C. Remember it's in the terbalik N. So this is A. Remember it's negative B, negative C, and then D. You'll get your answer here because I further expanded it. Because I times it all in, then you'll get this answer here. Ta-da! Look at this question. What they're trying to say is this one times this one, you'll get this. Meaning to say, this is Q. Let's take this as Q as for example, or A. Let's take A and this is inverse A. So A times inverse of A, remember, if the inverse exists, you'll eventually get 1 0 0 1. So find matrix Q. What you're going to do is just inverse this whole entire thing, and then you'll get your value of Q. Because you know, if a normal 1 times inverse of Q, you will get this answer. Alright, so let's move on to the next question. So given that blah 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 equals to this, find the value of K and H. Alright, so now this is interesting. So what are we going to do? First, what we're going to do is times this whole thing first. Now you're just going to times it in for every single one of them and do a comparison. So once you do a comparison, you'll get that 2 over K equals to 1, equals to 2. And from there you can substitute in this or do comparison between this or this to find your value of H. Okay, so find the value of A if P does not have an inverse matrix. So basically, to find the inverse matrix is this. But if the inverse matrix does not exist, then AD minus BC itself equals to 0. So it should actually look like this. AD minus BC equals to 0. And here you get your value of A. So if A equals -2, find the value of inverse P. So once you substitute the -2 value inside the matrix, so you'll get 2 times A, which is -2. So 2 times -2 is -4. So it's 8, -8, 8, and -4. And you're just going to inverse this. Remember the formula, it's 1 over AD minus BC bracket A, -B, -C, and D. So that's the inverse of P. Once you get it, you should be getting this answer. So here is a special case situation where you can actually just factorize this. And as you can see here, so that means the inverse matrix does still exist. So we're going to get to the last part of this chapter. Now, do you guys know that you guys can actually solve simultaneous equation using matrix? How? Okay, let's get to there later. Alright, so this is your simultaneous equation. What you're going to do is just separate them. So put x on one side, y on one side, and the value, the equals to what on one side. Alright, so now that we have done that over here, so now we're going to put it into matrix. So 2 minus 3, sorry, you have to widen it. 2, -3, then 4, -5. So those are all the values, right? X, y, and you're going to put it in 2 times 1 order equals to over here. So why are we doing this as an inverse? It's because we're trying to move this over here. And when we move this over here, if this is A, we're going to move it here and it will be inverse of A. 13, then it will be the inverse value of the matrix over here. See? So we got it over here. Now what we're going to do is just do the normal ones first, and once you times it all together, then you times 1 over 2. So once you're done doing that, now you get to know the value of x and your value of y. So do take note that try and write your inverse first in front. Try and make sure that your inverse is over here of the 9, 13. Alright, so here's another question that you guys can check out. So remember, you're going to separate them x and then y and then the numbers. So put in the value. So it's 1, 3, 2, -5. Then you have your x and y equals to 4, 1. Ta-da! So that's how you do it. Do the following inverse. Times it in here. Once you're done, you'll get this. Here are the value of x and y. And here's some extra questions that you guys can do as well. Try and not look at the answers first. And if you are confused, you can always use your calculator to get the final value first, just to make sure your answer is right during examinations. We've basically finished the whole entire chapter. If you've made it this far, then thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below what you guys want me to teach next.